when I was in Brighton, I brought little Dave to live at that house in Brighton, and I said, come and be my keyboard player, and he quit his job and left Chelmsford and came to live in the room that I'd arranged for him in the house in Brighton. And, you know, I introduced him to all the little white reggae idiots there, so he could, you know, have fun, network with them. You know, I was working with some of those people at that time because I totally sold out at that time. And I regret all the energy I put into that music because I just was providing reggae music that was a platform for egotists to talk their jar bullshit on top of, as part of their little ego routine, you know. And I regret being facilitating those people and aiding and abetting such foolishness, and I'm ashamed, not of the music I made, because all the reggae music I made was very high quality, but letting idiot pretend rastas talk their cliched bollocks on the top of it, just as part of their, you know, narcissistic fantasy. I'm ashamed that I allowed that to happen, and I took part in such things and sold out and stooped to the lowest common denominator. Very ashamed of that.
Love is on me, got a little love is on me, bring on me when me go, you know me keep the keep on moving. Come on, give it in the precise timing. Look at it, you become a praise of the king's coming. But take him over, you know, like living. Hey! So we top them, my yeah.
So anyway, Disciples was always Liquid Dave's hero, and when I was doing a band, I put a band together in Brighton, and I got Liquid Dave in as my keyboard player. I was playing bass, I assembled a band around me, and I didn't manage it well, and I didn't recruit good players, but that's another story. There was a guy who was creeping around because we were doing music production, and he was called Bimble. Now, I met this guy, I think in the Volks. He was one of these guys who was a disc jockey, you know, so someone who wanted to be part of music, was never good at doing music, so who, you know, still wants to be a pop star. So, oh, I know, these days you can just put a record on and press play and put your fingers in the air like this and pretend that you're actually doing something, and still act like a pop star and get all the credit of being a pop star. So Bimble was a DJ. He was also a wannabe record owner or record label owner or record producer. He'd put out a compilation album of white reggae music, or music produced by white people with rent-a-blacks on top of it, under the name of New Shoots in Our Roots. So it was a, you know, a black talk title, a patois black, you know, way of talking for the title, but it was a white man behind it, and most of the music producers on it were white. I can't remember who was on it. I know that he licensed one tune. He did a vocal album and a dub album, and of the same tunes. And one tune was licensed from Goldmaster All Stars, and I played rhythm guitar on that tune. I'm ashamed that I played on that tune because it was a complete turkey. It was a complete piece of shit. I remember and to be honest, even though it's a piece of shit, that tune, I should have got a writing credit. Because I remember in rehearsal, Gary James says, oh, I've got this song. And he started singing this song, you know, Jah don't let me down, Jah don't let me down, something another day. I can't remember how it goes. And then so everyone's like standing around, you know, so I start picking out the chords, finding what key he's singing in, and it was minor key, and it was, I think, like A and E minor. So I, off the top of my head, not having played it in however 30 years or whatever, 25 years, I can remember it. I'm pretty sure it was A and E minor in that order. I'm pretty sure. A minor and E minor. So I started playing the chords, and then Malcolm started, playing, and everyone else joined in, and Malcolm did his bass line, dum 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 dum, and it was just a stodgy, shitty fucking turkey of a bass line, you know what I mean? And it just does that for the whole tune with no change. And I was like, I think maybe we could work on the bass line a bit. Malcolm tells, no, that's fucking killer, that is. The fucking sound system, I fucking love that. And he starts like waving his hands around, like aggressively, right really close to my face. And this is how Malcolm is. This is how Malcolm will act. If you ever challenge Malcolm about a slight little thing, he'll get really aggressive. And he was like, gesturing as if like, oh, sound system people like it, but he was like, yeah, sound system people like it, and doing it like right to my face, really close. And I was thinking, this guy's just a fucking egomaniac, total fucking narcissist egomaniac. I'm gonna have to get the fuck out of this shit band, because I noticed that Malcolm was a piece of shit. I thought, by that time I was already doing the album. The album was going to come out. It was going to be a dub album. Of the recordings that weren't bad recordings, and Malcolm had, I guess Malcolm's previous guitarist had challenged him because he got the boot, and then I was drafted in to overdub on every track to wipe out, the traces of the previous guitarist. So, also because I was more suited to the music, let's say. And G. Roy, Gareth Brooks, who was the original co-founder of Goldmaster Records with Malcolm. G very much liked what I did, so I overdubbed on the album. I thought, I'm going to do this album, I'm going to overdub the album, and then I'll just, once that's done, I'll, maybe do a few gigs to promote that, and then I'll leave, and then I've got that under my belt. So all these shit white reggae things that I've been involved in, often I've thought, oh, this is a fucking piece of shit. Well, I'll just do that, and then it's like playing with the UK players. That was like hardly a fucking honour for me. You know what I mean? That was really fucking slumming it, and I was like, well, I'll just do as much as I can, so I play everywhere on this little UK reggae scene, and then just get known, and then I have my pick of people to work with, and people just know that I can do the music well, play proper traditional reggae music, which is not necessarily slavishly copying the Jamaican music, but at least on the par with it. I always thought that we could make music on a par with Jamaican music, and that's why I always hated it when UK people put on a fake Jamaican accent. We don't need to. We don't need to pretend to be them. It's not like we fucking robbed them of this music, you know what I mean? Reggae music is fucking robbed of American soul and American, how many fucking rock steady tunes are based on an American soul tune? Almost all of them, you know what I mean? And reggae is rock steady. Anyway, so Goldmaster did this shit tune. It was a real turkey. And I did, and G. Some guy said to G at the gig. We did a gig at Subterranea, Rodigan's Reggae. We had a few good gigs, and Rodigan played a track off of that album every week on his radio show, and that never happened. If a new record come out, Rodigan would play it that week, and not again, unless it was became a classic, But when our dub album came out, Rodigan played one track off it every week for 4 weeks running. You know what I mean? He really promoted it. It was embarrassing when we played it at the Subterranea. He did this long. It was like 5 minutes. It went from this big introduction of bigging it up. You know what I mean? And and a lot of people, reggae people, were there to see this band who could, can they do it? Can they sound like traditional Jamaican music? And some guy said to Gareth Brooks, he said, "Oh, I love that song, Jah Don't Let Me Down." No, it's right. He bought the album. He bought a copy of the album, and he says, "Oh, that song's not on there. Why isn't that song on there? That's the best song. That song's amazing." And then because one guy liked the song, G said, "Oh, that's going to be the next single. We're going to put that out as a single." And I was like, "Oh, don't you know, it's." I can't see it doing well. There's better songs. Put it this way, there was a lot better what we had, you know. So I didn't want to put out that as a single, and then they did anyway. And yeah, that guy Bimble picked up, but they've still got boxes and boxes of that single. Trust me. Gary himself, the singer on it, Gary James, he sold himself probably over 200 copies of it just from fucking harassing people into buying it. Buy my record. This is my record. Buy my record. You know. So Gary sold more copies of that record physically than anyone else. They've still got boxes of that record. You know what I mean? It was a real turkey. It's a shit tune. It's a dull tune, and it's a dull shit tune because it had Malcolm's shit dum 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 artless bass line, and it had that awful shit horns, which is like ba-da, 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 ba-da. And the song's like Jah Don't Let Me Down, and it's all melancholic, and the horns are just like Broadway or something, you know what I mean? It just didn't go. It was artless. It was bad art, and there's enough bad art in the world. We need good art. The world is full of art, and we don't need any more bad art. It was bad art. So this clown Bimble, he's put out his album, New Shoots in Our Roots. He had a backer from somewhere, I don't know. He got someone else to pay the money for it, and so he licensed. I mean, so that song that he licensed off of the Jah Don't Let Me Down song that he licensed off of Goldmaster, Malcolm would have got paid for that, one up front payment of maybe £200 or £500 or £1,000. I don't know how much he got. Um, there was the dub album version. I don't know if you got a separate payment for that. I essentially was the principal writer of the music because I wrote the chords. I was the one who picked out the chords off of Gary's, vocal melody and said these are the chords. And I got nothing, no credit. I didn't, to be honest, I wouldn't have even wanted a writing credit on it because it was such a shit tune. I would be embarrassed to be associated with it, and I'm embarrassed now to admit that I had anything to do with it. It was so shit, but I didn't get any credit and I didn't get any money. I didn't get paid at all. Aside from that, you know what I mean? That's Bimble, and that's his background of how he was a little sort of wannabe DJ, wannabe record producer. He was just another of these guys who creeped around the reggae market, in the reggae scene. That is really a lot more scene than it is reggae. And that's why I left. So one day Bimble, he's come round, and at that point there was two rooms in the upstairs in that house. My room we used as a live room, and I'd clear my bed out of the way, and there was like a mixing desk in the corner. There was a reel-to-reel in there, but Dave had a better reel-to-reel. Liquid Dave had a half-inch reel-to-reel. I only had a quarter-inch reel-to-reel. It was given to me by Richard J. Hindle. But Liquid Dave had the reel-to-reel in his room, so we would do the recording in his room, and my room was more like a rehearsal room for the band. You know, and I'd do a lot of writing in there, but Liquid Dave's room was the recording room. It's just like a little control room. There was no room for instruments really, but you could just record one person at a time in there. So Bimble's come round, and we had hardly any equipment, but we were producing good music. And Bimble had said to me, he'd heard the music we were producing, and he said, "Oh, I want you to write music for me. I want to go to Disciple Studio. You and Liquid Dave come along, you write the music for me, I'll produce it, meaning he stands in the corner and feels important and says, oh, play it a bit more like this, or play it more like that, or do something like this, do something that sounds like this record, you know. And he gets to feel like the producer, and then Russ would get paid just for hiring out a studio for the day. But the reason they do it at Russ's is because Russ would then mix it, and his name would be on the record, and that would sell the record. And the fact that it was recorded at the Disciple studio would sell the record, because that's what it's about for these people. Bear in mind, back in those days, we didn't have internet like we do now, so you would get a list from the record shop. The sound system guys and the disc jockeys would get a list from the record shop, mail order off, and would buy off of the list sometimes, just based on the description or just based on, you know, the name. And if it would say recorded at Disciples or mixed by Russ, they're like, okay, that's a safe thing to fit with my sound system, with my aesthetic or genre of their image of what they want their music or that is played on their discotheque sound system to sound like. It was just like a brand of quality by that time, Disciple Studio, so he wanted it done at Disciples. And I said, so what's the point in going to Disciples? Why don't you record it here? And then just get Russ to mix it, and you can still put his name on the record and pay him just as a mixing engineer. But you'll have a different sound, because if you go to Disciples, he's going to produce it quickly, and it's going to sound like, it's going to be good, but it's not going to be as good as a Disciples' own record, is it? He's going to use whatever sounds he's got. He's not going to give you the best sounds he's got, because otherwise, you know, everyone's records are going to sound like his records. You know, it's just this whole thing of just attaching someone's name to something to sell something. It's dishonest. It's artless. It's just not who I am, and it's nothing to do with who I ever was. And this clown Bimble, I actually remembered him. I was talking to him at the Volks, his disc jockey night that he was DJing at, and I thought, I remember you. I actually have met you before. I'd met him at Glastonbury in about 1995 when he had sort of dyed dreadlocks and shaved bits, and he was a crusty punk, and he played in a band called Godhead. And I remember it was one of the years when Glastonbury, the fence came down and loads of people came in, and you couldn't really tell where the festival ended, because, you know, after the fence you could walk outside of the fence and there'd be stuff going on out there. There was like some people would set up a marquee and called it the Dog and Vomit and put up a sign, and they were selling homebrew beer, and they had bands playing on the grass. It's on the floor, and if you played with one of the bands, you'd get free beer. And I kept going up there with my percussion, with my two congas that I had with me, playing with Kashriki Horner, because I could get free beer, because the festival had ended by then, and it was the last few days. It was like the fucking end of the world. It's like post-apocalyptic, you know. Everyone's skint and run out of weed and hash and whatever else they're doing, and so I got this free homebrew for playing with the Casualty Corner, and this guy was there, and he was like, yeah, I'm the stage manager, he goes. And I was like, I was looking for the stage, you know what I mean, because we were just playing on the grass. There was no stage, there was just a drum kit and a couple of mic stands set up in the corner of the you know, this little marquee that was set up with just, and the other side of it was just bar, and people just buying drink, you know, and standing around. And he was like, yeah, I'm the stage manager, you know, all full of ego, you know. I was like, oh, right, okay, well, let me know if you need me to help you out, fella, you know. He was like acting as if he was all like stressed, and oh, you know, oh, you're in the next band, right, and making a big deal out of organising a few fucking crusty punk bands playing some shit, you know, in the Dog and Vomit, you know, his big moment in life being the stage manager of the stage that didn't even exist in the Dog and Vomit. It was literally called the Dog and Vomit. They made a sign and wrote on it the Dog and Vomit and put it outside. So I said to him, oh yeah, well, all right, you know, if you let me know if you need anything, fella, if I can help you out. He goes, oh, you could roll me a joint. I said, yeah, if you're so busy, I'll roll the fucking joint for you if you want. And he goes, well, you know, and I was like, well, you have to give me the gear, you know what I mean? You have to give me all the... And then he's like, oh, he walks off. He expected me to just roll him a joint and give it to him. This is what a piece of shit he is. What a weird, idiot, creepy, fucking egomaniac piece of shit. Insane. Fucking insane this guy is. So anyway, this Bimble, he's turned up at my house in Brighton one time, and he's come up and he said, oh, I want you to come to Disciple Studio, you and Nickel Dave. You play the music, you know, and I've already been insulted because I've said, well, hang on, we've got a half-inch reel-to-reel, Burning Spear's Marcus Garvey album and all those classic Jack Ruby productions were all done on a half-inch reel-to-reel. You know, and instruments were bounced together, so a lot of instruments shared tracks. So if it was good enough for that music, I don't understand why that's. He says yeah, but it doesn't. He said, but Russ's looks more professional because he's got more flashing lights. Because he's got more rack units with more LEDs. Yeah. No, there's no hatred to Russ or no disrespect to Russ or not be. That's his choice of how he wants to do it. But I'm merely highlighting the idiocy of these clown Bimble and how a lot of these people think. It's all about the look and the image, and they don't listen with their ears, they listen with their eyes. So I've really been offended that he doesn't want to record the music at ours, and he wants to record it at Russ's, but he wants to take us along there. He's thinking that's a good thing for me, but that means nothing to me, you know. And then he's insulted us by saying he wouldn't even pay us. Oh, yeah. He's expecting us to get in a car with him early in the morning, go all the way to London from Brighton to Russ's, work for him, make creative music that's individual and new, and he specifically, you know, picked us out and headhunted us as creative people who could make this music that he wanted. And we would record it for him, and Russell put it out and get his name on the record, and then this would be used to build up, you know, Bimble's record company, and he would pay us nothing. I mean, this is the kind of insults that I've had in my life, and people wonder why I'm insulting to other people. People wonder why I would be insulting to this man Bimble. I mean, can you not see? I mean, fucking hell, you know what I mean? He's lucky he didn't go out the fucking window, you know? What a piece of shit. What an egomaniac. To imagine that we're going to be so into sucking up to some white reggae, pseudo reggae scene that we'd be prepared to work for free like that. And I was so fucking insulted, you know? Little Dave wasn't there at the time. And then when I did see him later that day, I said, well, Bimble came round and he said this, blah, blah, blah. I says, you know, so I told him, you know, politely, told him to go fuck himself, you know. No, I didn't, I just said, like, dude, you know, man, there's no way, you know, and he left. And I was really insulted. I didn't have a go at him, but I was really fucking insulted. And then Little Dave, I told him, and I said, look, I know Russ is your hero. If you want to go up there, do it, mate. The opportunity's there. Call Bimble, there's the number, if you want to do it. He's like, no, I ain't doing it. And, you know, really he didn't want to do it because, one, it's insulting, but also, if I wasn't going to do it, he was not going to do it, was he? You know what I mean? So, I have to say, for Little Dave, in a way, if he'd have gone, he could have linked with Russ then, and then he could have just gone as Russ's understudy from then, if he wanted. But he turned it down because it was an insulting proposition and it was exploitative, you know what I mean? This clown Bimble realised that we were quality. He thought we didn't know what quality we were and that he could just use it for free and just take the music and we would just be so desperate to be part of this, you know, scene. How insulting, and it just shows how wrong you could be. I'll give you a really good example of how, and before he said that, this clown insulted me another way. I don't know if it was in the same day. One time he insulted me because there was a picture that someone had taken at a gig of me a few years before when I was in a different band, when I was on stage playing bass guitar. They'd taken that picture and then processed it in some like Photoshop. It was Richard J. Hinder who did this. played, you know, in this band with Richard J. Hindle. It was our band, and I played bass guitar, and Little Dave was in that band. He was like, that was his Little Dave's first chance at doing any real music, you know, when we let him come in and play in that band. Richard Hindle was like the visuals guy because he was good at visual art, and I don't do any of that. So I could leave that all up to Richard Hindle, and he took this photo that was taken and processed it in Photoshop. It's part of his style of art, and I like it. I like that way of things being processed to look otherworldly and strange. That's the whole part of it. And also, I don't necessarily want to look at pictures of myself. I'm not egotistical and vain like that. So if you can take a picture of me and twist it up and, you know, distort it and make it look somehow alien or from another dimension, I'm quite happy for that. I'd rather that picture was used than a realistic, you know, high definition picture. Thank you very much. So Bimble had seen this picture, and he said to me, "Oh yeah, I noticed that you tried to make yourself look black." He said that because he saw this picture, he said, "Oh, you tried to make yourself look black." He said that to me. Wow. I mean, that's really reaching. For a start, the processed picture, I think it's solarized. I think that's the name of the process that he used on it. It's like a Photoshop type of program. It doesn't make me look black. It makes the light skin dark, and it makes the hair. I can't even remember how the picture looks off the top of my head. I'll, you know, obviously edit into the video. I think the hair is white or something like that. It doesn't look like a black man anyway, you know. I don't know how he jumped to that conclusion, because that's a hell of a conclusion to jump to. Because for a start, the picture doesn't look like a black man. To make the assumption that I was the one that processed it is also another huge assumption, isn't it? And even if I was the one who processed it, and it accidentally to him looked a bit like that, you know what I mean? To make the next jump that I deliberately tried to make myself look black. This is the exact words. I remember, because my memory is outstanding. People talk about a photographic memory. My memory is not photographic. That's not my experience. You know, I don't remember. There are some memories that are like snapshots, but I wouldn't say it's photographic. But when it comes to speech and what people have said, I remember exactly. Exactly. He said, he actually said, "I couldn't help noticing." And this is a classic narcissist thing. You'll get narcissists will say this all the time. I couldn't help noticing. Or they'll say, "Don't take this the wrong way, but..." And when they say that, what they're actually saying is, "I'm going to insult you. And if you don't accept the insult, I'm going to pretend that you're taking it the wrong way." So my advice is, if anyone ever says to you, "Don't take this the wrong way," but you tell them, "Stop right there. If you don't intend to give it the right way, I won't take it at all." It's not about taking it the right way, it's about giving it the right way. So if you're going to try and give someone some information or an idea, don't give it the wrong way. Don't make it a snide insinuation and then try and say they're taking it the wrong way. No. Anyone who ever says, "Don't take this the wrong way," but they mean, "I'm going to insult you, and if you don't accept the insult, you're taking it the wrong way." Classic liar narcissist talk. And this guy Bimble is a classic narcissist. He said, "I couldn't help noticing, but you know, I see that you try to make yourself look black." Really insane, you know. And this is the narcissism of these people. They project an insulting false narrative on you, and they are so eager they are falling over themselves in their desperation to project a false narrative on you. And narcissists are opportunists, and they have a compulsion to try and get one up on you and put you down and reframe you. So if a narcissist thinks they have an opportunity to reframe you, they are compelled. They can't help but grasp at it, even if it's not an opportunity. And if there's not an opportunity to reframe and insult you, they will invent one. So this creep, Bimble, he's come round and he's insulted me and NEGATED by saying that he thinks our music is good and it's the kind of music that he wants to put out on his record label as part of his ego fantasy of him being a big man. And he wants to use us to gain credibility for himself and use our creative ability to make music that he doesn't have. He wants to use that, exploit it, get it for free, and then own it as a piece of capital. What a creep. What a disgusting creep. And this creep markets himself as an anarchist. Wow. What a hypocrite, eh? Complete fake. These people are devils. They are the worst. It is evil and it is an abuse. It is an abuse to be trying to insult people and play petty, idiotic one-upmanship on someone who you look up to. Because basically he came to me and NEGATED because he wanted to use our music, because he saw what we were doing as what he wanted to be doing, as what he wanted to be involved in. But rather than be humble and try and learn, he wants to try and take ownership and co-opt it and be such a fucking egomaniac, deluded cunt that he imagines that we would be prepared to give away our music for free, so that he can not even credit us and put Thus Disciples' name on it so it will sell, and just use it, as a capital in his little capitalist fantasy of being an entrepreneur record producer. Pure capitalist. That's the whole thing. Get capital and then exploit it and use it, So, what a disgusting creep. Insane narcissist.